Welcome back to the deep dive. You know the drill. We take your sources, we dissect them, and we give you that powerful distilled knowledge you're looking for.
Yeah, we're cutting through all the
Straight
noise.
to the aha moment.
And today, we are tackling a subject that I think defines ambition, frustration, and, eventual triumph for just about every person listening right now.
It's universal.
It is. It's how we transform ourselves. We're diving into a crucial source titled Architecting the Change: Strategies for Breaking Bad Habits.
Okay, so let's unpack this mission. This deep dive is really about distilling the core wisdom from this source and really focusing on that one central question that keeps us all stuck in a loop, which is how to break our bad habits. We've all been there. You try to stop doing something only to find yourself right back at it 2 days later.
And that familiarity is precisely why this topic needs real structure and why this source is, I think, so valuable for you, for the learner.
Right.
We're deliberately moving past, the fleeting world of motivational quotes and short-term hacks.
Yeah, the stuff that doesn't stick.
Exactly. Our goal here is to extract clear, organized knowledge, a true operating manual for turning those persistent negative patterns into sustainable positive behaviors. It's about building a framework that actually lasts.
I love that. And the title itself, Architect in the Change, it immediately throws down the gauntlet.
It does.
It suggests we've been approaching this challenge all wrong. When I read that, I immediately thought, okay, this process can't be accidental, and it certainly can't rely on some, temporary burst of heroic resolve. It implies a systematic approach, right?
Absolutely. And that's the foundation we need to discuss first. The word architecting. It forces us to abandon the most common and the most commonly failed approach to change,
Which is?
relying on sheer willpower. An architect doesn't stand in an empty field and simply wish for a skyscraper to appear.
Of course not.
They design a structure that is sound, functional, aesthetically pleasing, and this is the critical part, built to manage stress, friction, and all the inevitable pressures of the environment.
So if bad habits are the structures we currently live in, often old, inefficient, maybe even collapsing on us,
It's a good metaphor.
then the architecting process means we have to shift our effort away from the symptom, the bad habit itself, and really focus on the intentional design of the new system.
It sounds less like self-help and more like engineering.
That shift in framing is the crucial insight. We confuse the battle with the war. Most people go into the battle of habit change armed with only one thing: willpower.
Mm-hmm.
But willpower is a finite resource. Every single time you make a decision, every time you resist a craving, you're depleting that resource. It's why people are great at resisting temptation at 9 a.m., but then they crash and burn by 5 p.m.
Decision fatigue.
Decision fatigue sets in.
That's such a powerful distinction. I mean, we've all tried that brute willpower remodel that completely collapsed in 2 weeks.
Oh, absolutely.
This source seems to validate the feeling that the failure isn't a moral one. It's not a lack of effort. It's an engineering failure. You ran out of structural material. Exactly. Architecture, on the other hand, is a reusable resource. It's about leveraging your environment and using systematic design so the system does the fighting for you.
Okay.
Once the architect designs the blueprint, the building process, while it may be difficult sometimes, it just executes the plan. The moment you shift from fighting that daily battle of resistance to setting up a structured system, you gain incredible leverage.
But I have to ask, doesn't focusing so much on architecture kind of minimize the very real role that, initial motivation and personal accountability play?
That's a fair question.
You still need some willpower just to sit down and draw the blueprint in the first place, don't you?
You do. And that raises a critical point about the timeline. Willpower is necessary to start the architectural project, to clear the ground and draw the first sketches.
Okay, so it's a spark.
It's the ignition.
Yeah.
But the strategy, the architecture itself, that's the engine. That's what sustains the effort when that initial enthusiasm fades. If you rely only on willpower, you have to reignite that engine every single morning. The system takes over the long-term maintenance.
So, if we accept this foundational principle that real habit cessation demands system design, then we need to analyze what the source suggests are the structural members of this blueprint.
Yeah, what's it made of?
Right. What, in abstract terms, does the architecture actually contain?
So what's fascinating here is that the blueprint has to address three critical components, and they're all interconnected.
Okay.
First, there is the architecture of the environment. Second, the architecture of the response mechanism. And third, the architecture of contingency.
Let's start with that first one, the architecture of the environment. This sounds like, making the good thing easy and the bad thing hard. But what does that really mean in a deep dive context?
It means designing the space you inhabit, both physical and digital, to align with the intended behavior, not the old one. The bad habit is triggered by cues in the environment we often don't even notice.
They're just background noise.
They are. The architect's job is to either remove those cues or to introduce so much friction to the old path that it's just not worth it.
Mm.
You are literally building walls between yourself and the negative behavior.
This is a perfect example of leverage, then. You
Yeah.
use one burst of willpower to restructure the environment, and then that restructured environment influences your behavior automatically, 2047, without you having to make more conscious decisions. You've outsourced the willpower battle to the infrastructure itself.
Precisely. Now, if we move on to the second component, the architecture of the response mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
This deals with what I call the empty void problem.
The empty void problem.
Yeah, people focus entirely on demolition, on tearing down the bad habit. But bad habits exist for a reason. They serve a function, often fulfilling some underlying emotional or physiological need.
So you can't just stop doing the thing. You have to design a new, healthier structure to occupy that specific functional space.
Got it.
So if the old habit provided stress relief, the new architecture must include a designated, easy-to-access, positive stress relief mechanism.
That's it. The new structure must be a functional replacement, not just a void waiting to be filled by the old, easy-to-default-to behavior. The blueprint has to clearly map the old behavior's function and then intentionally substitute a new, sturdier behavior to handle that same job. The strategy must move beyond subtraction and commit fully to construction.
And finally, the architecture of contingency. I feel like this is where most plans fail, isn't it?
It's a huge failure point.
We design the perfect primary system, but we don't build in a backup generator for when the power inevitably goes out.
Every building eventually suffers wear and tear or faces an unexpected storm. Contingency planning is the maintenance schedule.
Yeah.
It forces you to pre-decide your response to failure. The strategy isn't, I will never slip up.
No, that's unrealistic.
The strategy is, when I slip up, this is the immediate planned corrective action.
That completely shifts the narrative from perfection to resilience. So the failure isn't the end of the strategy.
Not at all.
It's actually a necessary input into the maintenance plan. It validates the feeling that one mistake doesn't mean the whole project is scrapped.
It ensures that the negative feedback loop doesn't just destabilize the entire new architecture. When a foundation cracks, you have an immediate pre-planned repair strategy instead of panicking and letting the whole structure crumble.
Okay, so we've established the architecture, the systematic design. Now let's pivot to that second key term in the title. Strategies for breaking bad habits.
Right.
This moves us from the design philosophy to the necessary logistics of execution.
Mm.
What actually constitutes a robust strategy here?
A strategy implies foresight. It implies a disciplined approach to how you use your resources. If architecture is the blueprint, then the strategies are the construction
The
logistics.
step by step.
The steps, the sequencing, the scheduling, the resource allocation. We have to stop viewing habit change as a spontaneous event and start seeing it as a project management challenge. That word strategy suggests a defined process, with discernible, actionable steps. Our listener is seeking those effective frameworks. It's the difference between trying to randomly demolish a wall and having a detailed logistical plan that tells you exactly where to put the supports before you even start swinging.
And a core component of this strategy is the intelligent calculation of two things: friction and leverage.
Friction and leverage.
The strategy recognizes that there will be high friction in the beginning. It will be difficult. It will require significant intention to lay the groundwork for the new behavior. This is your initial time and attention cost.
I see. So the strategy acknowledges that upfront cost, but it promises these disproportionate long-term returns. You invest high friction now to gain high leverage later.
Exactly. The strategy maps out that exchange. The bad habit has low friction now, but incredibly high long-term costs. The new architecture has high friction now. It takes effort, it takes thought, but it offers compounding positive returns or leverage over time. A good strategy makes that trade-off explicit.
And that intentionality is so key. The deeply ingrained habit, it functions on autopilot. It's the default setting. So the strategy, the execution plan, must be just as deeply ingrained and intentional to successfully override that default. The old behavior is a well-worn groove. The strategy is about laying completely new reinforced tracks by design.
We also have to address the logistics of the environment's flow. An architect considers how people will move through a building the flow.
Sure.
Applied to behavior, the strategy must ensure the path to the desired action has the least resistance. If the new habit is difficult to start, the strategy has failed to simplify the flow. The key is to reduce the friction of starting the good habit, even if the activity itself is still challenging.
So it's like treating behavior not as one single action, but as a chain of events.
Precisely.
And the strategy has to identify the weakest link in the old chain and then reinforce a new chain, link by link.
It is the logistical application of the architecture. For instance, if the blueprint dictates a new structure for morning productivity, the strategy might be to pre-position all the materials the night before.
Right, get your workout clothes out.
Exactly. This eliminates the decision-making friction when you are at your lowest willpower state first thing in the morning.
So if someone listening is currently stalled, they know what they want to change, but they just can't crack it. The message from this deep dive is clear. Shift your energy from attempting more resistance, which is just fighting the battle, to designing the system. That's how you win the war before it even starts.
Yes. The effort is shifted from maintenance by force to maintenance by design. When you rely on willpower, you have to fight that battle every single time.
It's exhausting.
It is. When you design the system automatically eliminates 80% of those battles.
Right.
That design element is what provides the leverage you need.
This refocuses the intellectual discipline that's required. It's less about judging yourself for having the habit and more about applying intelligent design to the replacement structure.
Yes.
We are answering how to break our bad habits by saying, you have to first design the intelligent mechanism that will render the bad habit obsolete.
And that connects right back to that original failure point. Confusing the desire for change with the implementation logistics of change. Desire gets you motivated, But a rigorous strategy is what carries you through that inevitable slump when the novelty wears off.
Yeah.
The strategy must be a full logistical plan for the entire life cycle of the new behavior.
Let's just reconsider that phrase one last time. Architecting the change. This demands an honest, rigorous sketch of what life will look like without the habit. And this is the harder part. What specific structures and logistical plans will actively prevent it from coming back?
And that sketch isn't drawn in a vacuum. It's an honest, objective appraisal of your reality. What environmental cues trigger the habit? What underlying needs does the habit actually serve? And how can a new, healthier structure fulfill that same underlying need functionally? The strategy is the path from that abstract blueprint to the built reality.
So, the central takeaway from this deep dive into the language of transformation is that breaking bad habits requires far more than just positive intent or a wish. It demands architecting the change, a structured, systematic, and intentional approach to system design, leveraging friction and flow against the scarcity of our willpower.
And if the goal is truly to break a bad habit and make sure it doesn't return, the architectural challenge is twofold. It's not just about tearing down the old negative structure. The demolition part is actually the easiest. The real work is fully designing, building, and then committing to the long-term maintenance plan of the new structure, the positive one.
That's a powerful final thought. It ensures the focus moves beyond just stopping something and towards a sustainable, positive transformation and the commitment it takes to, keep the lights on in that new building.
So we'll leave you with this challenge. Look at the habits you want to change, not as weaknesses of character, but as flawed architecture in need of a rigorous rebuild.
I like that.
Your next step isn't just to try harder. It's to get your intellectual pencil out and design a better, more resilient blueprint.
A fantastic perspective. We really hope this deep dive gives you the framework and the leverage you need to start architecting your own better future. Thanks for diving in with us.
Subscribe to learn English.